Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture. And could NXT Halloween Havoc be in jeopardy after another outbreak of COVID-19 at the WWE Performance Center? And after covering that, I'm going to tell you all about Thunder Rosa, who has apparently signed somewhere. Is it WWE or is it AEW?
Plus, the insane real reason why Lana keeps getting put through tables on Monday Night Raw, and it's not what you might think. And AEW's reaction to Jake Hager fighting in Bellator tomorrow night. This is the news.
Right, let's talk about this bloody outbreak then. The global bastard is back, and for the third time since its inception, WWE has suffered a reported outbreak. Report here from Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer, talking about the situation, saying that there were people at the Performance Center on last Friday, the 23rd of October. There were tests, positive and negative, but everybody who was there, people who were there, have been told that they need to enter a 2-week quarantine period regardless of whether or not they tested positive or negative. Fightful Select have covered this as well, come through with a report stating that WWE had held one of their in-house live events at the Performance Center on this date. Now, this is interesting because Meltzer also reports that the situation could impact tonight's NXT Halloween Havoc.
Oh, hang on.
There we go. As several people who are scheduled to be involved with that show may have been impacted. However, a source has indicated to Dave, like we're on first name terms, a source has indicated to Meltzer that no full-time NXT regulars have tested positive. So, while they haven't tested positive, of course, there's always the possibility that they may have come into contact with somebody who has, which is why you may wish to keep them away. Further details are scarce at the moment, although around 100 fans are still expected to be in attendance, provided that they pass COVID tests, which are issued yesterday. The results will come through. That is standard protocol. You know, this comes, like a month and a half, 2 months after the last COVID outbreak. That was in September. Clash Champions pay-per-view was reshuffled a little bit as a result of that. Stuff going on at the Performance Center, Retribution off TV for a week. This whole deal sucks. It really does. As we keep saying, there's no perfect way to book and promote pro wrestling at this time. You run shows no matter how many precautions you take. You can do everything right, and things like this are still going to slip through the net. We've seen it twice before in WWE, from what's been reported at least. We've had it in AEW as well. It's a crap situation, but it's going to keep happening.
Yeah, exactly. I think any COVID outbreak is, of course, awful, but in particular, just before what looks a great card for NXT tonight. I mean, 4 really exciting and intriguing matches, titles on the line, the House of Horrors bollocks with Dexter Lumis and my boy Cameron Grimes, and it's all up in the air. We don't really know how this is going to affect things. Like you say, no sort of regular competitors from NXT have tested positive according to reports, but if they've been in contact with them, the rules state, or certainly medical advice would be for them to not appear on this show.
Yeah.
Will they try and get around that? Who knows? It's not our job to speculate on something like that. But yeah, it's not just, oh God, this is awful for Halloween Havoc. What's that? That's like a train.
That's rubbish.
Not very spooky.
Spooky train.
But yeah, just an awful story that unfortunately is just seemingly going to keep repeating, Andy.
Yeah. We're going to have more stories like this. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, just hope that anyone who has tested positive or has come into contact with someone who has tested positive is okay and gets through this.
Let's move on to some more lighter news. I suppose light, yeah. Lana, she keeps getting put through a table on Monday Night Raw by Nia Jax. It pops us every single time. It's happened, I think, 6 weeks in a row now.
Yeah.
Michael Hamlet keeping check of how many times it happens, see if it happens for a longer period of time than Raw Underground existed. But you may assume you know why they are doing this. I think a lot of us thought, the reason why they are putting Lana through a table week after week after week is to somehow punishment book her for her other half, Miro, aka Rusev. Well, according to Dave Meltzer, speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, that's not the reason. They think if they keep doing this to Lana, it's going to make her a, quote, hot baby face. Apparently Meltzer heard about this in the second or third week of hoying Lana through a table. Bruce Pritchard, Ed Koskey scripting the angle, which they believe will turn Lana, quote, Andy, into a popular figure. I mean, what?
Everybody knows, man, it's Pro Wrestling Booking 101, that if you really want to get someone over as a hot babyface, you bury them every single week. It's flawless. I cannot see possibly how this could go wrong in any single way. Look, we all have a laugh with a lot of stuff every week, right? It's just funny. It's like, hey, if you had a Raw drinking game, and maybe you need drink to get through Raw at the moment, you would almost certainly have Lana going through a table. That'd probably be a finish your drink, actually. It's a laugh, it's whatever. But the reasoning is just absurd. This is one of the most illogical pieces of I almost said logic. Illogical logic. It's brain dribble is what it is. Oh, and I've pulled my headphones out. That's very good.
Well, it's quite clearly building towards a match where Lana is going to win both tag team titles in a tables match against Nia and Shayna. That's clearly what's going to happen. So
yeah, there we go. Botch aside, let's move on to the next story. Thunder Rosa. Apparently, she's on her way to WWE. This is a new report here from Dave Meltzer. So last night, UWM Primetime Live, Thunder Rosa was defending her NWA Women's Championship against Serena Deeb of AEW. She lost the belt. What does this have to do with her signing somewhere? Well, Meltzer tweeted about this title change and said that he had previously been told that AEW and WWE were both interested in signing Thunder Rosa. He also posted on his message board on Figure 4 Online, stating that he was told a few weeks ago that Deeb would win the belt and that Thunder Rosa, would be off to WWE. A successful title defense may have suggested the opposite, as Thunder Rosa would have been able to keep the NWA Women's Championship, presumably, and maybe defend it on Dynamite again. She's already done that, of course, in the build to All Out. It's an interesting situation, this. There's, Ben Carter the other week, another AEW guest star, made appearances and so forth, off to WWE. Now, Thunder Rosa is moving in the same direction. An interesting facet of this that was pointed out to me by one of my Twitter followers this morning is that Thunder Rosa actually just started her own promotion about 5-6 weeks ago. You can't imagine that WWE are going to let her continue with something like that outside of the company. So you could see that as a reason to doubt this story, and I think you would be very reasonable to do so. But, we're not privy to the details of how much money these companies have offered her and so forth. It could just be a case of WWE going, hey, what did AEW offer you? Oh yeah, we'll double that. And in which case, it's a no-brainer. At the end of the day, Thunder Rosa doesn't owe AEW anything. So fair play to her. She's making what she feels is the best decision for her and her career. And we'll see where she lands.
And money aside, you said yourself on Twitter this morning, Andy, if you're going to decide which women's division to compete in, it is a no-brainer whether they shove you on Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. I think WWE kind of blows AEW out of the water with that side of things. Yes, there are some talented individuals, but they just haven't really established beyond the likes of Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose, and Britt Baker. You've got people like Serena Deeb who they've signed now and are really developing this women's division. But I think it's a hell of a coup for WWE, the second after Ben Carter, of course. So credit where credit's due, whether or not it's due to money or just opportunities that they're offering them. WWE snatching someone else from under AEW's nose has to be given credit, I believe. But anyway, speaking of AEW, Jake Hager, he's set to compete at Bellator 250 tomorrow night. And Fightful Select have reported on the backstage reaction to Hager working the show. And don't worry, everyone, it's absolutely fine. The company completely okay with Hager taking those MMA fights. I believe he actually signed with Bellator before he signed with AEW, so that would kind of make sense that they'd have factored that sort of thing in. He's obviously been not taken off storylines, but moved away from some of the major storylines. Obviously, they're focusing majorly on Jericho and MJF for that town hall tonight on Dynamite, for example. But yeah, it strikes me that this is something just really well organised by AEW. They accept that whilst Hager is a full-time wrestler for them, he wants to do stuff outside of the squared circle into the octagon. And he's got a 2-0 record. I do believe he's fighting someone called Brandon Calton at Bellator 250. Who's also 2-0. So tasty little affair on the cards by the sounds of things, Andy.
Yeah, let's not forget the no contest on his record as well, of course, following the nut shot last October, the most weird thing about Jake Hager's MMA endeavors so far. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I could tell you a single thing about his opponent for tomorrow night, but I'm sure he'll probably win. There we go. Jake, that is.
Exactly. Right, let's move on to your Twitter questions. At WhatCulture WWE, of course, if you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Jaden Nachtigall. Apologies, Jaden, if I butchered your surname there. Jaden says, what if The Miz cashes in on Orton, then retains till Mania, while Daniel Bryan wins the Rumble and goes on to beat The Miz for the title at Mania? Loads of fantasy booking with the WWE Championship, Andy. Me and Hamflet actually did a really good podcast about what's next for the WWE Championship, which is available now wherever you get your podcast from. What Culture Wrestling? What do you reckon to this piece of booking?
It's an interesting one. You would obviously have to move Daniel Bryan brands again, but we've already established that WWE don't give a crap about the brand split. Although Tucker is now back on Raw, so weird. It's a whole deal. I'll tell you about it off camera. I've lost my train of thought here, but Miz versus Bryan at WrestleMania would obviously be very good, and I'd be very invested in that. However, I do think it'll be Randy and Edge.
Yeah, it's inevitable, as Hamlet was saying to me yesterday. Second question today comes from Vegeta Knows the Wrestles.
Nice.
Vegeta? Yeah. First of all,
Knows the Wrestles.
Rambo, good dog. Second of all, they write, do you think if WWE took some ideas from Aces and Eights and used it with Retribution, that they would work better? I mean, no stupid names and keep their masks and the reveals as a big deal. I was actually watching Wrestling with Regrets video about Aces and Eights last night, and I thought the exact same thing. They could use something like this because that was fascinating a while back in Impact.
Yeah, it went over really well. The thing is, I think it's way too late. I think the ship has sailed. I think Retribution's done. I don't know how you can possibly repair any of this damage. Perhaps if they'd used some of the tools that TNA and Impact used with Aces and Eights early on, maybe we won't be in this mess in the first place, and perhaps the storyline would be a lot better. I agree on that front, but honestly, man, I think Retribution's done. I don't think anything can save this pile of rubbish at this point. It's just been buried 6 feet deep, so...
Yeah, the only thing that can save this is Bully Ray or Rully Bay, his special name. Final question today comes from @dam_vandal on Twitter, who's changed his name to Wear a Mask. Quite right. Says today is this is yesterday, but it still counts. Yesterday was the 27th anniversary of the infamous scissors brawl between Arn Anderson and Sid. Drop all the WhatCulture lads, thankfully minus Miller, into a room and toss a pair of scissors into the middle. Who comes out on top, Andy? And why is it Phil?
Well, like the scissor fight song goes, the most dangerous animal is me. And if you get that reference, I will give you a like on Twitter, which is worth nothing, but never mind. A scissor fight, WWE, us, Sid, Arn Anderson, Michael Sidgwick, he's Raj. Like, he's fought with scissors before, has my dear friend Michael Sidgwick. And we spoke about this actually before we came on air, and we agreed Michael Sidgwick is going to cut everyone up. He's going to turn this is my house. He's going to turn everyone into ribbons and then sew them up in a nice little cross stitch. Gross, but it's going to happen.
If anyone wants to make that photo for us, or an image of us made into a big cross-stitch thing by Michael Sidgwick, I'd like that on Twitter as well. Let's move on to today's. And finally, of course, we've got Halloween Havoc.
Jesus Christ.
Alistair Black there, making his entrance. Tonight on NXT and on AEW. A hell of a show with the semi-finals of the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament, which was promoted by Hangman Page on Twitter. Thus, he's, of course, facing Wardlow. Sad Yeehaw Man versus Big Muscle Tits tournament match Wednesday night.
Jesus Christ. Did you... Speaking of Big Muscle Tits, did you catch Wardlow on the road to Dynamite this week?
He talks.
He spoke and he revealed that he doesn't have a girlfriend. So, he's even more of a hunk than he was before. What a man.
All the girls in our comment section. So you're telling me there's a chance?
Hey, mate, listen, I'm a straight male, and let me tell you, Wardlow, mwah.
F10 me, you mountain of a man. Jesus. Anyway, let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and the Badly Doys.
Badly
That's what they'd be called if they're in Retribution. Previewing NXT and AEW a little bit later on. Plus, there your thoughts, Twitter questions, and animal pictures at WhatCulture WWE. Watch there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray
at Andy H. Murray. And the H stands for one of the highlights of Monday Night Raw in 2020. Happy birthday, MVP.
Yes. Oh, what a guy. Happy birthday, MVP. Follow me at Adam Wilbur. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. But for now, my thanks, Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.